Okay, I'm gonna give a little summary of Marble Hornets now that it's over, kind of like my own interpretation of the series, because Marble Hornets is a series that is kind of confusing and up in the air, it's ambiguous, and it had to be, because, sorry, otherwise, some people would have been happy with how it turned out, and other people wouldn't have been happy. If it's left ambiguous, then everyone can kind of assume what they want about the series, and everyone's happy, in theory. But that also, unfortunately, kind of leaves people in the dark about a lot of things, and I'm here, now that it's over, to kind of give a summary of what happened, because, some people are looking for answers if they don't really understand some things. If they want to know what happened, I'm gonna, to the best of my ability, explain some of the unexplained. I've rewatched all of the videos, including the To The Ark videos, and I think I've come up with a complete, solid story that follows all of the entries and everything that happened. So this is for anyone that wanted an answer. It all begins with Tim, who as a child experienced schizophrenia and all these hallucinations, and that is exactly the type of person that Slenderman is drawn to, the operator in this story. So, a child to begin with, but then also one who has all these problems, health-wise. So, Tim experienced Slenderman throughout his entire childhood, and he trooped through it and all that, and he got by without incident. Aside from burning down his childhood hospital, there was no incident until the events of entry number 84 in the series. That is when Tim and Brian try out for parts in Alex's film Marble Hornets. That's when they first meet each other. You can assume that Brian and Alex have met before, but that is when Tim and Alex first meet, you assume. And that's why, at that point, Tim, being in Alex's presence, somehow transfers Slenderman to Alex. Not transfers. That would insinuate that Tim no longer carries Slenderman. He kind of gives Slenderman to Alex while retaining it himself. And then, once the filming of Marble Hornets begins, Alex, in turn, gives Slenderman to the entire cast and crew, which includes Jay, Brian, Sarah, and Seth. So, I'm not really sure why Brian never got Slenderman from being around Tim, because they're friends. Unless Brian was experiencing Slenderman, or the operator, I should say, the whole time that he's known Tim, and he just really never mentioned it, or never really thought it was a problem. That seems unlikely, because later he did think it was a problem. But anyway, so, at some point, while filming Marble Hornets, Alex begins to realize that Slenderman is following him. And he realizes he has to do something about that. So, he comes up with the idea, somehow, that he needs to kill everyone that, that Slenderman has been exposed to, and then himself. Or at least that is eventually what his motive becomes. That motive probably begins to formulate at that point, in the summer of 2006 when he's filming Marble Hornets. So, he begins to carry out that mission. So you assume that he begins by trying to kill Tim and Brian and Jay. Well, most likely Tim, because I believe that's the first one he tries to kill. He goes to the abandoned hospital that Tim shows him, and he tries to kill Tim. Alex has realized at this point that if you kill someone, or if you injure them so that they will eventually die, Slenderman will come and take them to his dimension. The problem is, and this is entirely guesswork on my part, but it seems to be supported by all of the occurrences in the series. If you are going to die, if you were injured and you're going to die, then Slenderman will take you while you're still alive, but you will die in his dimension. But if you're not hurt enough to die, if the wound isn't bad enough, if it isn't fatal, then you will somehow come back from the Slenderman dimension. And that's why Tim, Brian, and Jay were all okay after Alex attacked them, and they were taken by Slenderman. That's why they were all able to come back. because somehow Alex, he was probably inexperienced with killing people. He didn't plan to ever have to do that in his life, so he unsuccessfully killed them. He didn't injure them enough so that they would die. So he tries to kill Tim in entry 56, and then Tim comes back by entry 57 from the Slenderman dimension after he's taken. Same with Brian. Alex does not successfully kill Brian in entry 51, which actually happens after entry 56, and Brian comes back. And then in entry 71, after Alex gives Jay all the tapes, he unsuccessfully kills Jay, and Jay is able to come back, albeit his memory is modified at that point. That's why I assume why he forgets about the tapes for 3 years. He says in the introduction that he just forgot about them, filed them away, and forgot about them. I believe, really, he didn't remember them until 3 years later because Slenderman modified his memory. That's what I'm trying to say. So, eventually, Alex is able to successfully begin killing the cast and crew of Marble Hornets, the first successful killing being Sarah. And you never see this. This is in no entry that you ever see. But he must successfully kill Sarah, and she's taken by Slenderman and somehow. You just don't see it. And then, same with Seth. He successfully kills Seth, and Slenderman takes Seth. And at that point, he believes, he doesn't know that he failed. I don't think he knows that he failed with the other 3. So he believes at that point that everyone is gone. But he makes that speech at the end of entry number 22 after Seth dies so that he won't incriminate himself. He wants it to make it seem like he didn't actually want any of them to die. And from that point on, as he explains, as he talks about in entry 70, he plans to go and live with his girlfriend Amy and be at the same college as her. That's the college that includes Benedict Hall. So that he can just live his life as normally as possible from that point. He hopes that he has made everything okay. That he doesn't have to worry about Slenderman at all anymore. So he goes and does that. And now if we go back to Jay, Tim, and Brian, who are still alive, we can interpolate, or extrapolate, either one, I don't know, that they all handled themselves differently after their respective attacks. Jay, his memory was modified, so he just went about his life unwittingly, normally, because he didn't know what happened anymore. Then Tim, who you assume remembers what happened, he just tries to go about his life normally after moving to a new place or something, so he can just get as far away from all this as possible. And we don't see him again until a while from now. And then Brian, on the other hand, I assume, after his encounter with Slenderman, for some reason, he is affected very differently. And something snaps in his mind. And from that point onward, after the attack, he's never quite the same. He's never quite sane anymore. From that point, as the fans would say, he goes into his hoodie persona permanently. And he's not completely insane. Like, he can still take care of himself, definitely. And he still has, a motive. He still is motivated to do something. And that is, he wants to see Alex fail in his mission to kill everyone. He wants to kill Alex before he dies himself. And I'm gonna go off and kind of talk about Hoodie or Brian for a while now, and then we'll get back on track with the story. From that point, Brian, all he wants is to see Alex die. And he's not quite right mentally anymore, but he does know enough to know that that's what he wants to do. And from that point, after the attack, he knows his life is ruined. His life sucks from that point on. He just, he just lives wherever he can, gets by barely. So he doesn't care if he dies. And that's why he says he wants to go to the Ark. Because you can assume, and most people have made this realization by now, the Ark, in Brian's mind, means death. Specifically death by Slenderman, or being taken by Slenderman when you're going to die, and dying in his dimension. That whole process is what the Ark is to Brian. Because death and Slenderman are just related. They go hand in hand in this universe for them, for these characters. So Brian knows that is inevitable. That fate is inevitable. And in the end, in entry 83, when he does die, that he was right. That's exactly what happens to him. So he knows it's going to happen. So that's why he says he wants to go there, because he's accepted it. He's embraced it. He doesn't care anymore. And that is why, stay with me here, sorry. That's why he appears to be like 2 or 3 steps ahead of everyone else for the majority of the series. That's because when he went insane, he didn't care if he lived or died. He had all this insanity-induced confidence now. And he doesn't care what happens to him as long as he can see Alex die before he does. That's all he wants. And like that's why he doesn't care sorry, I'm not explaining this very well, but that's what it is though. Insanity-induced confidence. That is why in entry 66, when he's just walking while Tim and Jay are trying to quietly follow him, he probably knows that they're there, but he doesn't care. That's why he's just walking nonchalantly. He doesn't give a shit anymore, because he doesn't care if he dies. He wants to see Alex die before him, but if that doesn't happen, which it ended up not happening, he doesn't really care. He, like I said, like the point I'm trying to get across is he's not all there anymore. And that's why all of those ramblings in the To The Ark videos, all those secret codes and messages, that's all they were. Ramblings. They weren't really important. And that's a genius move on the part of the creators, Troy, Joseph, and Tim. That was really awesome. They said from the start that all the secret messages in the To The Ark videos were not imperative to understanding the story. But, and they weren't. But, if you did take the time to decipher all the messages and the codes, then it would generally give you a hint as to where the series was going next. And that's awesome. You didn't have to decipher the codes to enjoy the series and to get the full effect of the series once it was over. But if you did, there was a little reward in it for you. So that's why I think To The Ark and Brian and Hoodie and all that's genius, and he's my favorite character. After all was said and done, he became my favorite character for that reason. That he was just, he's cool. Anyway, after all that, back to the story. At this point, Alex is trying to forget about everything that happened. He's trying to live his life as normally as possible. So he goes to be with Amy at that school. And at some point along the way, between after summer of 2006 and April 4th, 2010, he realizes that not only is that impossible, that he won't be able to live a normal life because either he's still being followed by Slenderman or he's still experiencing the side effects or something. He realizes that the job is not done. And also, he probably realizes that Tim and Jay, and most likely Brian, are still alive. He realizes he didn't successfully kill them, and that's why the job is not yet done. That's why he goes back to that life of trying to kill everyone again. And that begins with, as much as he hates to do it, Amy. In the entry where Jay gets the tape of Slenderman attacking Alex and Amy, that tape is not quite what it seems. It seems like Slenderman attacks Alex and Amy, and Alex he does his best to get them to escape. That was poorly worded, I'm sorry. He tries his best to get out safely with Amy. But in reality, he wanted it to look that way. Very similar to what he did at the end of entry number 22 when he made that speech. In reality, he purposely planted that camera there in that entry for Amy to find, knowing that Slenderman would be drawn to them at that point. And he uses the opportunity to kill her, and Slenderman takes her. The reason that he makes it seem like something different, like he's innocent, is not only so that he won't be incriminated, but also he uses that tape as a means of getting close enough to Jay so that he can kill Jay too, and eventually Jessica once he realizes that she's been involved. So it's a genius move on Alex's part. And that is really, in the end, that is what the lost 7 months is. That's just Alex trying to, connive his way into a position where he can kill Jay and Jessica. He never really wanted Jay's help finding Amy. It was all just a big, elaborate plot. And the whole plot just barely fails. And Jay and Jessica just barely get away, thanks to Tim. And they go to that hotel. And they go there trying to get away from Alex. And at this point, Slenderman appears there, and Jay, in like a fit of rage, he's had enough at that point, and who can blame him? He rushes Slenderman, and because he got too close or something, that affects both his and Jessica's memory, I suppose. Almost like making contact with Slenderman. It took away their memory for 7 months. So they wake up in the hotel after the 7 months, and they figure out where they are, what's going on. They try to, at least. And during this time, you can assume that Alex is trying to track them down. And at the same time, Tim and Brian, Hoodie and Maskey, are trying to do the same thing, so that they can get to Jay and Jessica before Alex does, so that he can't kill them. And Tim and Brian just barely get there first. And they try to take Jessica out of the hotel, and this is the events of entry 76, if you couldn't tell. All those events play out. And eventually, Jessica is seemingly taken by Slenderman. And I will tell you right now, this entry 76, is very important. So remember that. I can only explain why later, or else it won't make sense. But remember, I have to go back to it because 76 is really important. Anyway, after the lost 7 months, and after the whole hotel ordeal is finished, Jay reviews the footage from the 7 months, and after that, he finds Tim and tries to start an alliance with Tim, which he does. And after a little bit of a fuss, but it works out. And they try to figure out what's going on at the same time as they try to stay a step ahead of Alex. And they make a little progress. They realize that Tim is the cause of everything. Even though that sucks for Tim, it still kind of helps them. And they try to figure out what's going on. And it's hard, but they try. And eventually, Jay begins to experience some negative side effects. After all this time, he finally succumbs to it. And it isn't helped when that entry, I think it's 72, where Tim, for the first time, stands up to Slenderman and isn't affected, really. But Jay, he really, gets the wrong end of the deal on that one. He's, never quite the same after that. And he's really, paranoid and not quite the same anymore. I almost say that that's kind of what happened to Brian when he was attacked by Slenderman. He went into hoodie mode. I almost feel like something similar happened to Jay from that point. Jay got really paranoid, and he wasn't all there mentally anymore. And when he and Tim go to that house, I can't remember quite which one it is anymore. No. They go to Tim's house to try to find Alex, see if he's still there, because they know from a previous entry that he's there now at Tim's house, and they don't find him. They find that piece of paper that says, "I have him," and it seemingly is written by Brian. And it says that he has Alex at Benedict Hall. And in the same entry, Jay stops trusting Tim because he finds out about the tape with Jessica's supposed death on it. So they aren't working together anymore, and it's really complicated. So I'm trying to get it all straight in my head. But so going back to that piece of paper that you think Hoodie wrote, in the end, it comes to pass that was not written by Hoodie. I assume. This is guesswork again, but I believe it wasn't. I believe, just like the tape with Amy's death on it, and that whole speech Alex makes at the end of entry 22, that was another elaborate ruse. This time, so that he can lure them to Benedict Hall, where he can kill them. Of course, at the same time, Brian sees this, knows that he didn't write that, and he goes there as well to try to get Jay and Tim to leave. As you see in entry 79, where he's like wielding a wrench at Jay. So, in the end, this plot of Alex's is half successful. He kills Jay, does not succeed in killing Tim. And then, not long after, Hoodie Brian finally dies after all that time. So now it's just down to Tim and Alex, and we're going through all these fast now. In the end, Tim succeeds in killing Alex. But not after hearing what Alex's motive was the whole time, and realizing that to, rid the world of the Slenderman disease, you have to kill everyone that came into contact with it, and then yourself. According to Alex, at least. And that brings us to the last entry of them all. And that last entry, it really threw a lot of people for a loop, including myself. But I think I figured it out. It presents two very big questions. First of all, how is Jessica still alive? And two, what actually happened in the entry? It's very confusing and very out of the blue. So, Jessica is still alive because entry number 76 is a lie. Tim had the footage the whole time, and he edited it so that once he showed it to Jay, Jay would believe that she was dead so that he wouldn't try to get her involved again. In reality, Jessica never died. Tim found her lying on the ground and managed to bring her to his home or something, and he harbored her for all those years after it happened. Now, it appears as if she was taken by Slenderman, but that's not true. She was not. If you notice, if you go back to entry 76 and you watch that ending part where she's taken, really, she isn't at all. Because any other time someone is taken by Slenderman, they're lying on the ground and Slenderman appears in the frame and then he cuts out and the person is gone as well. But in this entry, it actually cuts to different footage of Slenderman, not in the same frame, like it cuts to different footage of Slenderman. So clearly, Tim edited that footage. And really, he came across Jessica and was like, they talked and they figured out what was going on there. And Tim just kind of walked away with her out of the frame just so that it wouldn't seem like anything was going on. So that he wouldn't incriminate himself, just like Alex was trying to do the whole time. So that is why Jessica is still alive. Brian is right. Tim is a liar. And that's the biggest reason why. But the second question, what happened in that entry? Well, Tim has a coughing fit, and that's kind of out of the blue, what happened there. I believe that he took Alex's words to heart, and he realized, as much as he didn't want to, that he had to kill Jessica too, so that it would finally be over. So he had that little coughing fit to get her off guard, and then he killed her. And if you listen closely, when it cuts in that last entry to Tim driving, you can hear sirens faintly in the background. You have to really listen for it, but they're there. And I think that's like an ambulance coming to take Jessica's body. I mean, I don't know what else it could be. And then Tim goes off to kill himself. But it's left ambiguous, so that people can believe what they want, and that is a genius move. So I probably left something out that I wanted to talk about, but I can't really think what it is. So that's Marble Hornets. I love the series. I always have ever since I started watching it, and I feel like I owed it to the series to make this, because I made Journey to the Ark for a while and I got bored. And you know, it's a great series. And if you haven't watched it, well, that sucks because I spoiled the whole thing for you, but you should watch it anyway because it's great. So, bye.